It's more like an applied course.
Okay.
Yeah, an applied course that you try to be real with whatever you're doing.
Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to the Studentship YouTube channel. If you are new here, make sure you click on the subscribe button. In today's video, I'll be interviewing students of the Department of Political Science, asking them information about the course. I can assure you that this video is going to be helpful to you. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel.
Okay. I'm in final year, that's 400 level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like for many students, when you hear political science, the first thing that comes to your mind is, well, this is a course you have to study to become a politician. I don't know if that is a misconception. So what can you tell me about political science as a department in Nigerian universities?
Well, actually, this is a layman's sight or a view of a layman attending political science. Then it has an in-depth meaning, actually. It doesn't have to do with all about power acquisition, even though it's political inclined.
Okay.
But it has to do with power acquisition and then also a part of you trying to get more innovations through enlightening your brains about public administration, administrative aspect of life, and then you talk about sensitivity in the environment and sociological aspect of what it entails and the rest of them. It also has to do with it brightens up your mind about the state and organizational aspect of it, non-state and state actors involved in politicking within a political atmosphere or environment, but then more like in Nigeria or something like that. And then it also tries to create an enabling environment where you get to understand that look at what the government is like, and then look at you talk about your rights and privileges as citizens, so that you could be. This is something every other person needs to know about, and more like for me, I think it's a course that has to do with. Or should be a general course at some point, because it tries to enlighten you about your environment.
Is it like other students should be involved, like should get the idea of the course?
Yeah, that's what I think, because it tries to make you understand that, see, this is the way, the do's and don'ts in your environment, the ways you're going to follow procedures, so that you could be able to know what actually belongs to you, and then what's your duty, so that you don't get violated at some point and then denied your rights. That's what I think.
Okay. Thank you. So let me ask, why did you decide to study political science? What was the reason?
Okay. My decision to study political science started from while I was still in my secondary school. I had the motive that I wanted to be more proactive in social sciences. So I had to scout for a course that is inclined with what I wanted. So at the process of trying to scout for these courses, I was able to see and make some research, and I got that political science is a very innovative course under the social sciences and faculty of social sciences per se. And it's a beautiful course pertaining to records, and so far so good what we are able to reading or learning so far. It's a very lucrative course, and it transcends beyond not just politics, but it covers all aspects of life, because according to Aristotle, he always says that man by nature is a political animal. So I believe that every human being has to politic in one way or on the other and want to secure their interests. So definitely political science is a very nice and beautiful course.
Okay. Talking about how lucrative the course is, what are the opportunities that are valuable for graduates of those departments?
Okay. Under the field of political science, it's a technical and professional field at some point, even though we don't rate it professional because of, let me just say, it covers a lot of dimensions, more like it talks about the law aspect of it, and then the social and economic aspect of life too. I would try to say that political science is a very lucrative course in the aspect of administration. It's a beautiful thing that when you have to be a good administrator, you must have an insight of what politics is like, or what political science is like. And then when it comes to economy, the economy of a country has to do with that is the substructure of the country. It has to be, would I try to say, this particular aspect has to be looked in upon. And then political science is a very nice, I try to say, a platform where you can be able to assess what it takes and what the economy has to make up with. And then you could actually work as an administrator, just like I already said.
Yes, administration.
You can actually work let me just say, as a counselor, because it also has to do with psychological work at some point. Because if you're a good political scientist, you could be able to see and you could be able to view. We have something called lead, be able to see the future and then predict what it's always going to be like. So you can actually work as a counselor at some point, and I think you can work as a social scientist in all fields of work, pertaining where you know that it has to do with, like I try to say, a social gathering or something like that, or a cooperation, whether non-governmental or governmental organization. So it's a beautiful thing that a political scientist, in one way or the other, has the tendency to work in all social settings as an administrator.
So like the opportunities are diverse.
Yeah, you have diverse opportunities.
Okay. So you're in final level, right?
Yeah, final level.
Would you describe political science to be a challenging course, like in terms of academic workload?
The truth remains that political science is a very voluminous course or something like that. It's all encompassing though. So this tries to make it much more, like I try to say, it has a lot of workloads attached to it, pertaining the nature of a course. Just like I always said, it's all encompassing. It transcends beyond scopes, and this tries to tell you that at some point, as a student of political science, you get to understand that you're reading like in a versatile way, so you'll be able to have insights about most things, if not all things, within your environment. So it's a work that is strenuous at some point. It has to do with more of brain works, and it's technical, even though it's always applied. When it comes to the application is always applied, which means it has to do with trying to bring it into real life experimentations and realities. Because it's not always about the theoretical aspect, but you always try to practicalize it.
How do you guys like go into the practical aspect as students?
We do that through the IT, industrial training. This could actually happen in a firm, a government establishment, non-governmental or governmental, whichever way, but it's always in a firm where there is a social corporation. You can also do that in the parliament, more like the Senate or the House of Reps, according to your own choice.
At what points is it in your third year, in your fourth final year, when you go for this IT?
This IT runs down from the first year to third year.
Wow, from first year
to third year, every single section.
Wow, that is interesting. So how would you describe the typical day of, before I go into that, we're talking about how tedious this course is. There are some students who are considered average, like from secondary school, based on academic work. So would you say political science is a course that an average student can study in university?
For me, I believe that everything that has to do with brain work or something like that, being an average student and non-average student, has to do with time. With time, somebody gets enlightened and gets more smarter with time. So definitely, I think that political science is a very beautiful course which an average student could at some point study, because it makes you, it outsmarts you. It outsmarts your average tendency. And it makes you like transcend or try to come up to a particular stage. So it's more like a very beautiful course for an average student. So by
the time you're able to like get into the department, there's that opportunity,
for you to learn more and advance
with your own determination.
And develop more. So
So
you being an average student is not a limitation.
It's not a limitation, because you can still
go far.
So how would you describe a typical day of a political science student in terms of your activities, classes, and?
It's indeed it's indeed a strenuous activity, just like you said. It has the ups and downs though. I think it comes from an individual perspective or something like that. It's personal to people though. So but at some point it has to do with how you are able to always manage your life, maybe social activities, and then so that you don't fall in this into this triangular student stuff. And for a political scientist, it's a very uniform course.
Okay.
It has procedures, it has protocols, and it has status quo too. And when it comes to the life of a political scientist, it has to do with maybe you wake up in the morning, take your bath, shower, after a strenuous night of reading and the rest of them.
Okay.
Then you walk down to school. It's always a long class range, ranging from 9 a.m. or sometimes 8 a.m. to about 4 or 5, depending on the time. So it's a wide range of the rest of them. But it's always spaced at some point for breaks and the rest of them. But for students, you wake up in the morning, you brush, and then you do the needful things, and then you come to school. Sometimes you get to find out that you have little or no time for your social activity or social life.
So is it possible for students in this department to like engage in side hustle, like, you know?
This actually, we try to bring it in a more larger context. This is a university environment, and this is a federal university. So it's always a hard thing for students to engage themselves in side works and side hustles, and combining it with school. But in this political science, sometimes you can't actually fit in with side hustle, or else it has to do with something online or something that you have to maybe do when you're back home or something like that. Maybe in the evening or in the night or throughout the night.
So have you engaged in the side hustle, or maybe your classmates? Like, is there anybody you know, like?
Yeah. Because of the nature of the course, what I said something. It's always a lucrative course. It just helps you to advance and then develop your mind. And through this process, some students have been able at some point to then think of possible ways to lift themselves out from being an average student financially to
just they manage themselves, manage their time.
Manage their time or something like that. It has to do with time management also.
Because it's already trainer. So whatever you're trying to do, you have to be very smart and be very smart about it.
Sure.
So is there any like maybe you fail an exam, maybe in your second year, third year you fail out? Is there any structure like that?
No.
No. So you just have to ensure you pass your courses with good grades.
Yeah, you just have to ensure you pass your courses with good grades, and then you try as much as possible to do the needful, which is just put in your best work, put in your energy, and then get a better result. And then if you're having issues with you fail the course or something like that, you can always rewrite the course rather than trying to step you down or trying to limit you. But I think when you fail a course in your final year, you'll be having an extra year.
So talking about like, you know, failing courses and all of that, if a political science student, maybe probably in first year watching this, what study tips, what advice would you give to such students?
Well, I think studying and learning is a question of individual interest. Okay. So, just like they say, you can take a horse to the stream, but you cannot force a horse to take water or something like that. So it has to do with you yourself, your level of your own determination. Because I was once in some people's shoes at some point, but I was able to determine, and then I was able to take a particular step and then take a particular stage that this is what I want for myself. So if you actually want to be a more better student, you have to do the needful, which is you have to prioritize your priorities, and then you have to know the prerequisites to which you're prioritizing your priorities to. And then you have to know what it will take you, things that are involved. For example, if you want to be a good student of political science, at first you have to be open. You have to be open to a lot of knowledges, and then you have to be open to pieces of advice. Because at some point you will get to understand that the more you learn, the more you read, it widens up your brain and your scopes, and then it tries to also inculcate values of development. So as a political scientist, you have to keep reading. I think you have to read irrationally. I don't know if you understand.
Like spontaneously?
Yeah, spontaneously. You have to just read and read and read and read. It's a very lucid department, and it's a very lucid course, more like it's a very clear course or something like that. So you have to keep reading. And then you just have to cultivate reading as a habit, not just as a habit also. And then you have to always wake up earlier, come for classes, respect lecturers, and then respect the university environment. Dress nicely, dress professionally. You know what it means to be a political scientist, knowing fully well that it has to do with management, public, society.
You have to present
so you have to present yourself in a very nice way. More like sometimes people say the way you dress is the way you're being addressed or something like that. So that people doesn't take advantage of anything. So you have to dress nice, read all the time, and then be punctual with your classes, and then you're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I go to the last question, I just remembered something. Like when I was in my first year, we did a course in GS, and of course there's some part of political science in it. And at that point, it was as if like you have to do a lot of cramming. There was a lot of arguments. Like, what can you say about that? You know, there are a lot of dates and stuff like that.
Okay. In political science or in social sciences, we tend to argue a lot because right is might. And then I think at some point nobody is right and at some point nobody is wrong. So it's a contest because we have different perspective and we have different views pertaining to whatever we want. So in political science or social sciences, because that GS has to do with social science, it's not really political science. So in these kind of cases, what we do is it's more like an applied course. An applied course that you try to be real with whatever you're doing. So when you're trying to be real with whatever you're doing, it has to do with your ability to read and understand. So you don't read to cram. It's a difference between reading to cram and reading to understand.
So I can apply it.
So you can be able to apply it very much more better. So when we read to understand, we find out that we don't cram. Yes, you don't cram when you read to
understand.
But when you read to pass,
you just cram
and then
everything just past tense.
Because this is something you have to live with. So you understand?
As a political scientist,
you have to live with these things. Or as a social scientist, you have to live with these things. So it's a beautiful thing. But some departments that are not really politically inclined or social science inclined have the opportunity to at least harvest the knowledge.
Just get an insight.
Get an insight of what it looks like.
So nice. what role do political scientists have in shaping the political landscape of Nigeria, like for the betterment? Because Nigeria has a long way to go. So as political scientists, like what role do you guys have in such capacity?
The political aspect of a country is the superstructure of the country, and why I call it the superstructure is it has to do with let me just put it this way. It is the day-to-day activity. Like it has to do with day-to-day activities, and as a matter of fact, politics is inherent in every living society because it tends to let me just try to say, because there's always interest.
Yes, there's always interest.
There's always interest.
The man is a political animal.
There's always interest, and for you to secure your interest, you have to play politics.
There was the policies.
So it's always a game.
And without policy, there can't be any organization. Like things will not be in order.
So you mustn't have a political. You mustn't have a settings for. I might be bargaining with you over something. I'm playing politics with you. So how smart and how good I could be able to maneuver your own interest, to be able to secure my own, or to be able to influence your own decision.
Like a lifestyle.
Yes. So
that's politics.
So when it comes to Nigeria terrain. The political terrain of Nigeria has been so much deteriorated by corruption and the rest of them, but that's not our bone of contention. We are trying to make a better Nigeria and something through a more better movement. So when it comes to this aspect, a good political scientist should be able to understand the structure the country needs. Now, you work with the structure. When you have to do with the structure, you have to do with the system. The system of operation. As a political scientist, you can be able to deter whatever that will cause challenges to the political stability the political credibility, efficiency, and effectiveness within a political environment.
Okay.
So your ability to put an end to those stuffs makes you a more better political scientist. Then we try to correlate them with theory and practical. You get to understand that you learned this theoretically, and because of the system and the structure of a particular country, this should be more applicable in countries like this. For example, you come to Nigeria being a heterogeneous state, and the rest of them comprises of many economic diversification, ethnic diversification, and the rest of them.
Just unique in their
religious, these things, and the rest. So if you come to all these things, you get to understand that there's always some level of understanding a political scientist needs to have for him to be able to run a heterogeneous state.
To bring everything
together. People together. Then that is what we call unity in diversity. Be able to unify those people together. This is something you learn from a theoretical aspect of it, but then you try to practicalize them and then make it a more better state. The way you go about federal states is not the way you go about confederal or then autocratic on the rest of them states. A more or less a democratic state. So as a political scientist, you should be able to, number one, find possible solutions to stabilize a country politically, economically, socially, and otherwise.
Based on the uniqueness, heterogeneity of
the environment. So currently in Nigeria, as a political scientist right now, you could be able to know what. Let me just put it this way. According to, we have a very good citation from Herod Laswell, who defined policies as who gets what, how, and when. So you know exactly who gets what, and then you know when, and you know how it gets to office. For example, when you talk to who gets what, you talk about who needs to be, like I try to say, who needs to be at some point, like I try to say, let me just put it in this context. At some point, you look at who deserves this, when they deserve this,
and how they get it.
They get it. So this is a platform where you could be able to know what the people need, how they would get it, and when they need them.
And everybody will be satisfied.
This is just a simple definition of what you have to do as a political scientist.
That's very nice. So thank you very much so far. Lastly, what advice would you give to a student that is aspiring to study political science in university?
Wow. It's
before I go there, let me just quickly, have you had any regrets? If you go back in time, so I want to combine the two questions. If you go back in time, would you still apply to political science, or you make a different choice? And what advice do you have generally?
Well, the political science is a very beautiful course. And the truth is that I have no regrets studying political science at some point. Even though at some point you get to have challenges and problems on the way, but you always get solutions to them. I believe the reasons why challenges are being created is for problems to show itself. And then to show how effective it could be. So why studying political science at a very early stage, more like in my first year, I would try to say, then I was challenged financially at some point because you have to get textbooks and the rest of them, get materials, buy journals, and you can actually buy you have to keep buying. And then you also have to study online. You have to do these things with finances, because you going online too has to do with money. So it's actually a beautiful thing then, but this was actually the small challenges I was having then. And at some point I wasn't able to manage my time with manage my social life with my academics life, pertaining to the nature of course I was into then. And I think I was not able to manage based on an individual or something like that. I liked management at that time. But while I was growing up, I listened to lecturers and the rest of them talk about management skills, and so I had to keep learning. And currently, I think I'm good to go with management. I was able to then, from my second year, I was able to conjure and then try to manage a lot of things together. And then I think by now I'm cool.
So what advice would you give to somebody aspiring to study this course?
I'll just try. My only advice for you is that it's a beautiful thing that you venture yourself into the study of political science, because it's going to elevate you, it's going to build up your values as a person, it's going to build up your personality, and it's going to enlighten you more about the public, the environment, and your society. And it's going to always give you edge ahead. It's always going to give you edge ahead, because you get to understand that you have an insight of whatever that is happening around you.
Yes.
Whether medical, in all aspects of life. And then you always have a say in all ramifications. And then there's no limitation for job. Then you can actually work in a medical unit. You can work in all aspects of life.
Yes.
So far, it has to do with individual.
Wow.
It has to do with the society. So I would try to encourage you, those who want to study political science, to keep up with time and then to do the needful. With time, at the right time and at the right point, you get to understand all these things. Maybe your second, third year, you get to understand the need and how enlightened and how good you are to be opportune to study political science as a very nice course and a major.
Wow.
That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope with this, anybody that is aspiring, or maybe a student first year, second year, they will get a very good insight about this course. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.